Hey folks, sorry it's been a little while. I've been rather busy, unfortunately, so it's taken me a while to get back on to doing a video. Today we're revisiting one that I've already done before, but the file got screwed up, so we're going to redo it again. And as it happens, we have some additional parts fitted now, so I guess it's a updated version anyway. So today we're looking at the VFC M249 gas blowback light machine gun. If I just collapse the bipod down a little bit so you can actually see a little bit more of the rifle. So I've had this since release, and in recent times I've actually replaced the receiver with a DNA steel receiver, as well as fitting the Jaeger Precision heavy recoil buffer, recoil weight in the bolt carrier. So let's have a little bit of a talk about the system, what to expect, its pros, its cons, and how it performs, that kind of thing, and a general overview. So first thing I did when I got mine, they come with a solid stock. I took the solid stock off and I moved the buffer from that solid stock into this Mark 48 stock from VFC to give me a collapsible stock option. And then shortly after that, I replaced, or didn't replace, but I also got the para sliding stock, as you can see, from VFC, which has the buffer pre-installed, so you don't need to mess with that. Also, I didn't like the plastic handguard. I had a real B&T handguard. Let's turn this over, you can have a better look. Real B&T rail system that I had for a little while, sat in the parts box. So once I got to the VFC, I was able to put that straight on. The only thing I will say is that because the gas tube on the VFC is not fluted, it's slightly wider than the real one, it does mean that you can't remove the gas tube very easily with the rail system installed. I will get the DNA gas tube, which will eliminate that, but that's further down the line. Also, another thing I changed was I've got a Surefire machine gun flash hider on there, 5.56 machine gun flash hider by, I think this one's a GK Tactical, so that I can mount the GK Tactical Surefire style MG suppressor. Currently on here I've got a LA5, which is the it's quite a cheap LA5 from oh, why does the name escape me right now? It's not the FMA, it's the Night Evolution stroke Element one, that's right. And my real ACOG's on there currently, but that's neither here nor there. It's just an optic I had to hand, and it does suit it quite well. So, out of the box, these are actually a remarkably light machine gun. That's not to say that they're weak in the slightest. They're actually really sturdy, but they are really light, and that's mostly down to the fact that it's a machined aluminium receiver from the box, and it's exceptionally light. Now, later on, I did manage to pick up this brand new unused DNA steel receiver from a guy on the forums who hadn't fitted it when he sold his. That was a 3-hour job, because you have to remove every tiny little component on the rifle and move it over onto the steel receiver. It was time consuming, there were some small bits, so you have to do things methodically. So if you're going to do a receiver change, make sure you have plenty of space, all the tools you need, and plenty of time, because it is a time consuming process. I did take some photos as I was stripping it down. They didn't actually need in the end, but it's good to do so anyway. The steel receiver does add a bit more weight, although it's still very, very manageable. The rifle itself, its main features are obviously it's a gas blowback light machine gun. It's the first of its type. It has a power source that is fed from either a box magazine or as it comes from the box with a Stanag style gas tank. It's not a magazine, no BBs are fed from this, but this comes in the box. And if you're going to buy the M249, I would say get the box mag tank. It makes the gun much more usable. This is not as doesn't give you the performance that the drum mag does, although this is an extremely efficient system. Also, what I did here is the belt that comes with the box mag has these plastic bullets. As you can see, this top one, I took the top one which fits on the feed pull, and I fitted a belt of inert ammunition because it just looks better than the plastic ones. As you can see the difference between those. The reason I kept the top one is because it has that hole for the feed pull. I didn't want to go to the hassle of drilling that when it's hidden inside the rifle when it's closed anyway, so you can't see that top one. And it does fit into the standard inert belt, so that's the easiest way of doing it. Belts are really easy to come across in the UK from various deactivated gun stores and what have you. There are a bunch of videos on how these operate out there in the internet, but what I will say is the golden rule when you're using this is the same with the real thing, is before you do any action, you cock the action of the weapon, because there are certain things that if you try to do without cocking the action, you can harm the system. And that's the same with the real one. The real one, if you don't cock the action and you close the top cover, you can bend the delicate feed mechanism in the top cover, which the airsoft one doesn't have. I'll show you why in a second. But if you cock that action, it's a good practice to get into, because you need the action cocked for the safety catch. You need the action cocked, or to apply the safety catch, you need the action cocked to disassemble the barrel, and you need the action cocked if you close the top cover with a loaded BB magazine. Now, BBs on this are actually fed from these plastic cassettes, which can hold up to 180 rounds, but I recommend loading them to 120. These are really cheap. You get one with a rifle, and they come in packs of 3 for about £40 for 3 magazines. And they fit into the top cover there, and then when you close it down, that will put rounds into the rifle when you pull the trigger. To release the magazine, there's this little catch you press down and it releases it, and they're really easy to change. People were put off by this at first when they first saw this design, but when you get the manual of arms in, it's actually still feels really realistic, because as you lift the top cover, you cock the rifle, you put one of these in the top as if you're putting a belt in, and then you close the top cover down. It's actually a rather slick operation, and I prefer this to having to try and work a way to feed BBs in a box magazine as stock. So yeah, these are nice and cheap and lightweight. They fit in SMG mag pouches. A load of them will, or you could get a bunch of them in like an M4 or an AK mag pouch quite easily. There is a screw that holds down this plate that seems to just be there to hold down that plate. I've taken mine out so that you can lift the feed tray cover and get access to the loading mechanism. Also for a bit of realism and LARPing. This mechanism just here is actually your dry fire mechanism. So if you activate this and deactivate it, when activated, when the last round is fired, it will detect the last round's fired and it will cut the gun off. The bolt will just fall on an empty chamber, like so. With the dry fire system, dry fire latch deactivated, it means you can actually dry fire this. If you're doing films or whatever, just demonstrating it, then it means you can feed it without any BBs and it won't stop. The drum magazine comes in a standard 200 round box type mag. The real one does have this hole on here. This hole on the real one is a drainage hole for if water gets into the box. On the airsoft one, it acts as the gas fill valve. I don't use this because I've actually put my box magazine internals into a real 200 round cloth bag. This is the Ozcam version. I have got a black version somewhere, but I think the dog may have eaten it. but the tank is actually quite tight fit in there. And it's just a lower profile on the gun. It doesn't stick in your arm as much. And also, I just think it looks cooler than the big black plastic box magazines. They're also a little bit more practical to carry. And also, the real one has got this metal locking plate here. It is stiff at first. You can see where I've got grease on here to aid it going in and out of the hanger. After a while, they do become easier to do. The other modification I actually made was I dremelled this slot in there so that when it's in the rifle, I can have somewhere for that tube to go, and then the dummy bullets fit down the side of it. And the only other modification I made is I took the plastic tubing out and I cut about 1 inch off the tube. The tube was just a little bit too long and was easy to foul up. So taking 1 inch off that tube on the other end just made it so it's a little bit easier to fit and less likely to snag. Now, if we proceed to take this rifle down, the correct procedure to this is you use your firing hand, withdraw the charging handle, and with your off hand you pull the trigger. Allow the working parts forward slowly. Ordinarily this pin is easy to push out, but since I fitted the DNA body, my rear pin is now really stiff. I think that's because I tightened the circlip hold up a little bit when I fit the rear body. So if we take a punch and a rubber mallet, and we pull that pin all the way to its extended position. Oh, see, yeah, I bent that circlip putting the metal body on. Hinge the stock down. Once you hinge that stock down, there's your buffer. Fit in there. If you use a real stock, the buffer's softer and it'll give you a slower rate of fire. The VFC one gives quite a high rate of fire because it's very stiff. Push your finger on the back of the recoil assembly, push it in and lift up slightly, and your recoil spring will come out. Lift your top cover out of the way. Take hold of your charging handle and pull your bolt to the rear, and we'll remove the bolt. We'll come back to that in a moment. We'll discuss that a little bit. You can also remove this bottom pin here. I'm not going to remove mine right now. If you remove that bottom pin, it allows the trigger group to come away. Also, while the bolt's to the rear or out in this current case, we can remove the barrel, which is done by pressing down on this latch, taking hold of the barrel assembly. Now this can be a little bit stiff at first, or even right now. Yeah, mine's very stiff at the moment. Since fitting this metal body, things have stiffened up somewhat. So I'm just going to pause you for a moment. Okay, so continuing on. Apologies for that. So yeah, press the latch down and swing the barrel forward, and the barrel assembly comes off, leaving you with your receiver, the gas tube, and the bipod assembly. To remove the bipod, you take this tube and you turn it, and then you pull that gas tube out. I can't do mine because, as you can see, it's very tight in there where the rail system is. I'd have to remove my rail system to get the barrel out. Once you get the DNA gas tube, it removes that issue, but VFC didn't fluke that for some reason. Anyway, let's put that aside for a minute. Here's our barrel action. So we have the hop unit, which can be adjusted here. It can be adjusted out of the rifle or through the hole in the top cover. And you have your carry handle assembly, or mostly for switching the barrels out. Now if we find that magnet, we can find out what's steel. So I'm using my magnet for holding some parts for another project at the moment, but none of this is all aluminium. However, the carry handle is steel. There's a steel pin where the heat shield would go, and that's about it. The bolt carrier, whilst we've got an empty desk, is all aluminium, machined aluminium. It's quite lightweight, and mine's a little bit heavier at the moment, and that's because if we take a screwdriver and put it through this hole, it's right to loosen on this one, or to snap your screwdriver, whichever. Fine when it goes through. That screwdriver I just snapped was broken, which is why I use it for these kind of things, but it's really brittle. Oh God, this one's tight. There we go. So we turn that, and I'll show you the weight that we put in there from Jaeger Precision, which just adds some weight to the bolt to increase the felt recoil. If we can get it out, there we go. So that's the Jaeger Precision recoil weight that he sells that I put in. It just adds a bit more weight to the bolt assembly to increase felt recoil. This is Loctite redded as standard, which is why it's a bit sticky. I did put a bit of blue Loctite on there because I like to be able to remove it. Again, if you put a Allen key through there, it just gives you a bit more purchase, and you tighten those right up. So just tighten that. As you can see on the bolt carrier, there's markings, assembly markings, as there would be on the real part. It's actually a really nice piece of machining, to be honest with you. I have fitted an impasse in mine. There are videos online showing you how to do that. All I will say is you don't press down on that screw when you're undoing it, because you can break the nozzle return spring. But just be really careful and follow the guides online, and then the impasse fits in there fine. So we bring this main body back up. So we have some markings on here. Marking on the lower, this is standard factory VFC marking on the lower, which is a manufacturing number. And then there's on the dust cover, there's some additional manufacturing number markings. Now I have the DNA lower receiver, but the markings are pretty much the same on the DNA lower receiver as on the VFC. The only difference is on the VFC there's a horrible FN sticker on that side, because it was originally supposed to be FN licensed and it all got cocked up and messed up. Really simple operation. Internally the trigger is a simple sear that when you pull the trigger, the sear just drops and allows the bolt forward. When the bolt goes forward, it hits this firing pin here, which then releases gas, chambers around, and it all cycles happy. So if we just put the barrel back in for the moment. There's not a lot of room between me and the camera because of the size of this gun on the desk, but there we go. Fit the barrel assembly back in, make sure it's tight, give it a tug. Not too many because people will talk about you. And then knock things off the desk, spare stock. Take your bolt assembly, can you see? Place it back in the receiver. There are guide rails for it. This is easier when you're actually not trying to do it on camera, but hey ho. It's part of filming for YouTube, I guess. Oh dear. Once you get that bolt into the back of the receiver, if you angle it forward and pull the trigger, you can move the bolt all the way to its forward position. Definitely do this before adding the recoil parts, because extra tension on the recoil spring might make it entertaining to fit that in. So you push the recoil block in, and then it goes in some little guide points, and then drops down into a retained position, which then allows you to close that stock back up. And then you take your pin, which should be captive, but mine is obviously being a bugger. Place that pin back in, and your check function. So, as if you can see this wiggler, as it's been referred to by some reviewers, when the bolt moves to the rear, it moves this wiggle plate, and you'll see as I release the bolt forward, it moves this piece on the feed pull, which when the belt is on there, has the effect of moving the belt, which gives the illusion when the gun's firing of the belt actually moving and feeding, which is quite cool. So if we again follow correct procedures, lock the bolt to the rear, close the top cover, ensure it's closed fully. I don't slam mine. It's just bad practice to slam it shut and ham fist it and let the working parts forward. Now, what else is made of what on this rifle? As we already said, I've got the steel receiver on there, so that's steel, but that comes as an aluminium normally, and it's an extremely light, very well machined piece. Top cover is aluminium, as is the real one, and then the cartridge chamber cover is steel, the dust cover is steel, sights are alloy, rail is alloy, the barrel latch is steel, and these parts are, those pins are steel, but most of it is an aluminium, which is what adds to the lightweight nature of this. So what we'll do is let's get a belt, sorry, not a belt, a box mag put on there, and we can show you how this works. We just set the belt off there for the moment. We fit the I find it easier to put the block in to the mag port a little bit, and then start feeding the box mag onto its tray, and then click it in place, both the gas port and also the box magazine. Give that a tap, and there we go. So it's got quite a loud report. It's not earth-shattering recoil compared to like FAL, but with that added weight in there, it does give a lot more recoil than it did as stock. But the gas efficiency is actually superb on these. If we just close it down, I'll show you the effect on that belt that firing it has. We've got no BBs in it, obviously it's just a gas tank at the moment. So nice little report, nice little bit of recoil, fun to fire. They've got reasonable range. You don't want like an absolute laser coming out of it, but they've got a decent, nice tight group. Out of the box mag, the efficiency is you'll get about 800 rounds, so 7 of these plastic cassettes on one tank of gas, which is pretty good. And as I said, you can fill it up. Just turn the gun upside down and fill it through the bottom there. On the magazine, I think you'll get 200, maybe 300 on a good day out of that, but it's nowhere near enough really. So I definitely would recommend getting the gas tank. If we now put the dry fire switch back into its active mode, and when the gun fires, it drops the bolt, and that's telling you it's empty. So that's how it would be in normal operation. Obviously I had it in a display configuration to show you, so I could show you dry fire then. Put the belt back on, close the top cover, sure that's latched, and there we are. So that's the broad overview of the VFC M249. It's not a cheap platform. It's, you know, with a box mag and a small pack of these cassettes as extra, so to give you full magnet, you're probably looking at about £1,000 in the UK, but that's a lot cheaper than the Tokyo Marine Next Gen Mark 46, which had more issues than these. Speaking of issues, the issues that people have come across with these, there's one major issue that people came across. When they first come out, some people found out of the box the magazine release was broken, which holds the gas tank in. And if that's broken, it won't take gas at all, because there's pressure on that magazine catch, as you can just see. If I press that, it's actually released it. It can be fixed with a steel one. VSC were providing some replacements. Very few of them actually had it, but it's worth noting that some did have that broken magazine catch. And as I said, steel replacements are available and advised, in my opinion. I will be putting one on this eventually. But overall, it's a really good little platform. Great fun to use. Very scary for people downrange a bit. And it's the first gas blowback LMG on the market. Gas in mag LMG. So there we go. Hopefully they'll release some more models. Looking forward to getting this puppy out and having a proper play with it. Getting some good range time on it. I've only used it on ranges at the moment. I haven't actually managed to use it for an event, but hopefully that'll change as the spring comes around. Thanks again for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you've got any questions, please put them in the comments down below. Please share and what have you. I do appreciate everybody that's been following the videos. I apologise again that I wasn't around last week. I'll speak to you again soon. Take care.